Some jobs take years, even decades to pay off, and not necessarily in dollars. It's about leaving a legacy. And it takes a very special type of person to do that kind of work. They have to be ambitious, not too bothered with conventional success, and patient. Very, very patient. Mike James is the biologist who has literally put sea turtles on the map in Canada when there was very little evidence that they existed here at all. Now he's changed the face of sea turtle research here in Nova Scotia and worldwide. And he's still just as passionate about the species as he was when he was little. Where did you start with the turtle obsession?
I grew up in downtown Toronto. I was really always a guy who liked to do outdoorsy stuff. So I started, I did like kind of the month-long camp thing. And then when I was about 7 or 8, I started to get interested in the Federation of Ontario Naturalists. They would organize these outings around, birding or amphibian call surveys or edible wilds kind of hikes. Okay. And I got totally into that. And then I ended up kind of getting into the reptile amphibian focus because I had a pet turtle, believe it or not.
What was the turtle's name?
The turtle's name was Felix. He was sort of a presence throughout my entire life. My time as a kid growing up in my house, leaving house, university, first apartment, moving in with the girlfriend, getting married, having kids.
So basically there was not a time in your life when you were not entirely focused on reptiles and amphibians.
Well, I've broadened my focus to include family. And
Did you though? I feel like I need some proof of that because
this has been a thing, like my mom would tell you, or my twin brother, or anyone. This has been something that I've been passionate about as a kid, and I wanted to go to university to study turtles specifically. I knew there was so much we could learn about them, so much we didn't know in the Canadian context, and that community I found really interesting in terms of a research community. So all the animals I work with are endangered, and that's part of the really fulfilling part of the work is getting at science to help with recovery and help with conservation of these animals. Yeah.
It sounds like your sea turtle journey here in Nova Scotia has been pretty magical because you have been the person to basically put them on the map.
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to Sherman Bleakney, the late Sherman Bleakney. So in the early 1960s, Sherman Bleakney was a professor at Acadia University. And he at the time had talked to a number of fishermen in the province and had attended some strandings of sea turtles, primarily leatherbacks. And at that time, he was pretty convinced that we had a regular occurrence of sea turtles on our coast. And he wrote and tried to get funding to study sea turtles. And his applications weren't successful because people basically said, these animals are of tropical origin, like go study them down south. And he argued, no, I'm pretty convinced they're here regularly. Fast forward over 30 years, and I am attending Acadia University as a graduate student to study freshwater turtles. And I go and do a talk on behalf of the professor that I was working for. This man comes up to me and he says, oh, this is interesting, work that Tom's doing. There's also a veterinarian in the group called Chris Harvey-Clark. They said, well, are you aware of the fact that there are also sea turtles here? I had no idea. Chris Harvey-Clark said to me, I've been talking to a couple people in the US, and I think that, there's something viable here. and I don't really have time to run with it. Do you want to like take this on as your graduate work? And would your supervisor be in for that? And I said, absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
and,
do I? That's amazing.
And that's where it started. So again, I was a kid who grew up in an urban environment in downtown Toronto, never been on a fishing boat, didn't really know the east coast of Canada at all. And here I was presented with this opportunity where literally months later I was spending, you know, the entire summer on fishing boats, and my whole life turned around at that moment.
And turn around it did. Every year, Mike and his team set off to find and tag sea turtles. Not an easy task on the wide open ocean. Today, we're off the coast of Cape Breton, near a known feeding ground, to see what we can find. Now, maybe we won't see anything at all. Or maybe we go home having had the experience of a lifetime. So we've gone all the way from Dartmouth to the Cape Breton Highlands.
That's right.
This is pretty cool.
You know what? It's my favorite time of year.
Yeah.
I'm up here and I get to work with the animals I study, so it's the best.
And it looks like a fairly calm day in the harbor.
Harbor can be deceiving. I'm not sure what it's going to be like around the corner. But we'll get on the boat and take a look.
All right, after you. Turtle time. Fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed we see a turtle in that harbor.
So this vantage is super important because you can't see anything from standing on the bow.
Oh my God.
You have to be up super high to be able to have a really good look.
You just did Leonardo, you know that, don't you? That was not what I was expecting. Well, since it was too rough for turtling, I figured I shouldn't waste my trip. So instead, I got Mike to show me the boat and some of the tools they use to catch and tag turtles. You really use every inch of this boat, don't you? Oh my gosh. So this is where the magic happens.
Yeah, most of our time is spent right here and here.
Looking for...
The world's largest reptile.
Wow.
Leatherback turtle.
How many turtles would you see in a
We don't really know the true numbers that are up here, but we're happy if we see 20 to 30 animals in a season.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, how many have you seen this season so far?
We're probably around 20 now.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What about today, Mike?
Today is not your day, and we're completely at the whim of the weather, and this is the most opportunistic kind of field work you're going to encounter. We have to have animals here for one. We have to have the sea state the way we need it. Lighting is important. We need a lot of things happening at once.
So you and your team just come and you camp out and you just wait for the perfect conditions.
We wait for the right conditions, and we spend our entire day in that tower and on this roof looking for turtles.
Can you tell me why you're gathering all this data and chasing down the turtles every year?
So the animals are listed under Canada's Species at Risk Act, and when we discovered in the early parts of our research that there were so many turtles here, we knew that we had to focus a lot of activity study-wise on the northern part of their range and the Canadian water component, because this is key foraging habitat for the turtles. So we have these great international connections with turtles coming up from the Caribbean, South and Central America, but they're up here for up to 6 months of the year. So it's not enough just to study them on the nesting beach. We have to understand their biology and the conservation concerns as well in the north.
And here you're finding them every year, right? But
Yeah.
they're nesting every
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So this is actually a good spot for kind of consistent record keeping.
The same animal will come here every single summer to feed, but only nest every 2 to 3 years.
Do you have a favorite after all these years?
I don't know, I think one of the ones that really stands out in my mind is a turtle that we tagged that was named L'Oreal. It was an animal that we equipped with a satellite tag very early on in my career that showed up on a beach in French Guiana. And we told the research team there that we were following her, and we gave them updates of where she was in the ocean. And then they were ready on the beach the very first night she came to nest. And I remember getting the emails with all the pictures of the team with her, removing the transmitter, and we later discovered she was something like the 3rd or 4th largest turtle in their data set as well.
Oh, wow.
I also remember the day we tagged her because it was completely foggy out. We were sitting on the roof of the boat thinking we'll never see a turtle, and this gigantic leatherback appeared just out of the fog, and that was the turtle that we ended up catching in the fog.
What is your favorite part?
Probably handling the turtles.
That makes sense.
But there is one other thing. Let me show you.
What about out there? Would you ever spot one from there?
Yeah, you could. Why don't we go down?
So you can walk right out on
Yeah,
this?
go ahead.
What is this called?
This is the pulpit that you're walking out into.
So is all of this type of equipment, like you've invented this whole system basically?
Not me, and we borrow some parts of it from other fisheries, and this was originally used for sword fishing, this kind of equipment.
Trey, this is giving me Titanic vibes out here. Do you want to just...
I can't. There's
Come on.
only one thing you can do when you're in that pulpit,
What's that?
called turtle.
Okay. Ready? Turtle! So what does Mike, a turtle researcher, have in common with Ed Bedham, a woodcarver here in Shelburne, Nova Scotia? Well, he too has that rare inner compass that guides him to do extraordinary work, even when it goes against the grain. Ed, what was it like growing up here in Shelburne?
It wasn't bad. It was a little bit different, I suppose, than living in Toronto, but quite slow around here for the most part.
So what did you get up to when you were a young boy in town?
Played in a couple of bands.
Oh yeah?
And other than that, really not a whole lot. Mainly because in Shelburne there's not a whole lot to be up to, I guess.
So you're born and raised in Shelburne, and then you go to Toronto for how long?
A decade.
A decade.
Yeah.
So what brings you back to Shelburne?
We returned to Shelburne really to raise our daughter. We had a daughter that was, I think, 1.5 years old when we came back home. And we decided that we wanted to raise our child near family and have some of the same experiences growing up that we had.
And were you an artistic kid?
Yeah. I think I was influenced quite young. I used to watch my mom sketch a lot just at the kitchen table.
Oh, she was an artist.
And she wasn't really an artist. I think she aspired to be, but just never happened. But that kind of inspired me, and then I started to sketch and kind of have experimented with a number of different mediums over the years. But for the most part, I'm self-taught.
So now your art is primarily wood carving.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about wood that draws you to it?
With the wood, I was working in 3 dimensions. Not really all my work is 3-dimensional, but I never really was able to capture that with most other mediums. So I decided to try wood carving, really because when I came back from Toronto, I was introduced to some local decoy carvers, duck carvers. They
Yep.
carved mantle ducks and lots of detail, that sort of thing. And I was really fascinated by that, so I decided I'd try my hand at it. But at the same time, I didn't want to follow what was already happening because so many people are already so established in that.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to work my heritage into my work in some way.
And tell me about your heritage.
Mi'kmaq would be what I've always identified as, but I'm also African, Canadian, and European mix. So it's quite a diverse heritage, I suppose. And but as I said, always been drawn to and always identified as Mi'kmaq.
Does that come out in your work?
It does sometimes, not always, but I've done some murals, some scenic carvings, that sort of thing, that are, I guess you'd say, Mi'kmaq themed, at least. And quite often I'll work animals into my work, or I'll use a lot of materials that would be considered traditional materials. It's been a long road. I wouldn't kid you there. But I guess 2018 was really the beginning of getting a little more recognition than I was used to. And I think 2022, I got the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Award.
Oh, just
70th Jubilee.
How did that feel to get the Jubilee medal?
It just, it floored me.
Wood is an unforgiving medium. Once you've chipped it away, you can't get it back. Even so, Ed starts most of his carvings knowing what he wants from the wood and believing he'll get it. He stays open to the possibilities, but he's an artist with vision and direction. Wow, this is carved. And how did you get the different tones? Is that inlaid?
It's done with wood stains. So I've tried to create a bit of depth with the wood stains.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anything like that. It really looks like a painting, the way you've done it.
Sort of does, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Until you get close enough and you can see that there's actually texture to things.
Now tell me about the landscape. Is this taken from real life?
The background for the scene actually is from a photo that I took at Islands Park. And that's probably only about maybe 10 minutes from here. And tried to work that into the scene, and just added all the other elements to try and fill things in and create a bit of a village atmosphere.
What was your inspiration for this?
Actually, the town did approach me, and or one of the coordinators with the town, and expressed that they had an interest in some sort of a public art piece. So I'd had this in my mind for a number of years, but just never ever actually followed through with it, because it's quite a sizable project.
How long did this one take you?
I worked on it over part of the winter, into the fall and part of the winter, and into the spring of the following year.
Just looking at every blade of grass, and you've stained every single area a different shade. I mean, coming from the back side of it, I loved the way it looked from the back, and it was very simple and graphic in nature. And then you walk around and it's just striking.
Yeah, and the back is actually designed with a built-in bench so that, people can just kind of sit and enjoy the view. This piece was intended to be further down on the waterfront down here. And through the bottom cutouts, you would have seen the water, and through the sky, or you would have seen the sky through the cutout for the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I've added my signature to the bow of the canoe. And the way that it works is it's really just my initials inside of a circle, and the dots and dashes on the outside of the circle represent the year that it was completed, and the dot that's in one of the quarters of the year just represents a quarter of the year that it was completed.
Do you do that on all of your pieces?
Most now. Quite a few of the early pieces didn't come up with the idea until a little bit later on into things, probably 4 or 5 years into things. Rather than a written signature, I could use that, and through that I can also date the piece. If I run into work that I did in years past, I can get a general idea of when it was completed.
Even your signature is artistic.
Thank you.
And creative. Well, do you think that maybe we could choose something possibly a little more modest for me to try my hand at?
Yeah. We could maybe try to hollow out a spruce barrel.
I would love that. So this is where it all starts.
Yeah.
And this is a burl.
Yeah, and actually the tree that this came from had roughly somewhere between 45 and 50 burls of every shape and size you can imagine.
So what is a burl exactly?
It's just a growth on the tree. I'm not exactly sure whether it's a parasite that causes it to grow or whether it's something that's genetic with the tree, or what I normally do is just lock it into something as tight as I could possibly do, and luckily this one still has a bit of the branch attached.
Oh, and it's a perfect fit for your
Yeah,
table.
so I
right
can
there.
just lock it in here, and normally what I'll do is just kind of go as much as I can with the grain and just hollow it out until I get to a depth that looks like it's probably the maximum that I can go, and usually just go at it with a mallet and a chisel. Sometimes if it's a large surface that I need to clear, what I'll do is kind of honeycomb it a bit with a drill, and then it's easier to knock it out. But where the depth is different all the way around this, I would rather probably just go with the chisel.
Go with the chisel. And is the is the burled wood more dense than a regular piece of wood, or less dense?
This is actually quite soft wood, just because it is spruce is a softwood tree anyways. But I'll show you
stuff.
a little bit of what or how I do it. And the main thing is to steady the bench a bit with your foot, or the way I normally do it. And once you get across the grain, it will just naturally break off this way. So it's a matter of just taking everything out more in layers than trying to take it all out in one large chunk. So you want to give it a try?
Yeah, I'd love to. As long as this isn't something I could mess up.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Just keep going in towards center.
Okay. I hope you're being real with me here, and I'm not gonna. I know you see something in this piece already, don't you?
I do, but I don't. I don't see a character or a figure of any kind, but I see that I'll eventually cut this piece off and use the back end for a handle of some kind.
Okay.
And probably shape this cut away so that it looks a little more natural in shape.
So nothing I can interfere with yet.
I don't think so, no.
So I'm just gonna put it down and bang away.
Bang away.
Right, here we go. That didn't come off. Is it supposed to come off at the end?
It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
You can leave it there if you like, and just knock it out later.
Oh, that goes through pretty easily.
Yeah, it's a lot softer wood than most people realize. I've done a few that were really super thin, like 3/16 of an inch thick, and it was literally like picking up a feather.
How many burls have you got right now to work on before you switch to something else?
Well, it really depends, I guess. If a commission piece were to come along, then I would switch up and work on that. But for now, I have the burls, and even if I don't have an idea of what maybe the end result might be, then at least I can work on hollowing them out, because that's part of it anyways, and come up with a subject for later on.
Yeah, it's not all fine details at all, is it?
No, far from it, actually. The end part of the job is where the detail really comes in.
And where do you get your wood from?
These actually came from a friend, and they had a relative that had a tree on the property that they no longer wanted, and I was asked if I could use the burls, and so we went out and we cut the tree and started harvesting all the burls, and it turned out to be somewhere around 45 or 50 burls in total, right from golf ball size right up to about this size.
Oh, well, now I don't feel so bad about potentially ruining one.
No, I have many to work with.
It seems to me that there's a theme with you where stuff just comes along.
It just happens when it happens, yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll have a piece for quite a while before I'll decide exactly what it'll be.
Yep. And what's next for you?
Not really sure. Not really sure. I know I'll stick with the art, but I don't know exactly what the next piece will be.
Well, I hope you stick with the art.
I hope so too.
The world needs you. You can see now why I've made the connection between Ed and Mike. Their jobs have nothing in common, but it's how they operate that is so similar. They both want to leave the planet better than they found it, more creative and more biodiverse. And they both set themselves tasks with infinite timelines and hope that the legacy of their work is lasting.